Hey, what's good, everyone? This is Misti-Dawn with the Manamal Streaming Radio. I'm talking to Linnea Vikstrom from QFT. Thank you for joining me today from Sweden, Linnea. How are you?
I'm fine, and thank you so much, and very good pronunciation on the name.
I make sure I do that because I only have 4 letters in my name and my last name, and it gets slaughtered. So I try very hard to do that.
Very good, thank you.
Sure. Now, can you give us a little background about you, like how long you've been in the music business or bands you've been a part of?
Absolutely. So I actually started doing music at a very young age. I come from a musical family with a grandfather who was an opera singer, and my father, as a lot of people already know, he's also a hard rock singer. So I basically grew up in an environment with metal and classic hard rock music. And the first real job that I actually did, paid music job, was in the musical Annie in Stockholm. And well, I was 6 years old at the time, so a while back. But so that's the first thing I did, and then I went to choir school. I went to it's a public school, but it's sort of a music school which is focused on choir singing from 4th to 9th grade. And then in high school, I went to a sort of music high school. And I don't know if you guys know about the Eurovision Song Contest, but in the US, but in Sweden, we have the national what do you say, auditions or something like that for Eurovision Song Contest. And there's a junior version of that. So I was in that national sort of audition on television with my own song when I was 11, I think, me and a friend. So that was fun. And that's the first sort of band, you could say, that I had, because it was a rock song. We call ourselves Rely, because her name is Rebecca, my name is Linnea, so we made sort of an ABBA thing, Rely, and kind of cute. And and then I ended up in Therion right after high school. So that's basically what I've been doing. And I did 2 tours together with Camelot, one in the US and one in Europe. And then I started up with QFT, a little more than a year ago. So that's a very brief history of my musical background.
Well, you've been a part of it for a long time, so that just, when you hear you sing, you can tell that you've had, experience. So you're amazing. Your vocals are unbelievable.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sure. Now, who are some of your musical influences?
That's also one of those things. You could make a list, probably a mile-long list about my musical influences, because I'm sort of a musical omnivore. I listen to everything from experimental jazz fusion to plain old dance music, house, and of course the thing that's closest to my heart is always been hard rock and heavy metal, and classic rock for sure is what I always end up listening to. I can be listening to some weird classical, new pieces, and I always end up listening to Dio or something in the end anyway. But so Dio obviously vocally is one of the bigger influences. But as a girl listening to all these male voices, in the beginning it was really hard to find a way to sort of mimic that tone of the voices in hard rock. So what I did, I ended up listening a lot to Aretha Franklin and Chaka Khan and all these fantastic soul R&B singers, and found out that there's a lot to pick up from technique and sound in those voices and adapt it for a female voice into hard rock and sort of mix it up with all those Rob Halfords and Dios and, to get that sort of sound. So I experimented with that. So those 2 things I would say is a big influence on me vocally, but also musical singers, if you listen to what it sounds like today, it's not my favorite kind of singing, but there's a lot of technique in there and it's a lot of practice and hard work. So I take influence from that too.
Okay, that's great. I mean, you very well rounded, and you can actually tell in your songs you draw from different genres. So that's That's not hard to do, or that's pretty hard to do, I would imagine.
Well, for me, it's what came naturally. When I started to write songs, first off, you go like, okay, I want something to sound like this or that. And then you listen to the song, it's like, that's not organic, that's not me. I just trying to mimic what someone else did. And then like, okay, let's just sort of try and do whatever comes to mind, sort of. And then it ended up being this diverse, weird songs that doesn't really follow any pattern or, and I guess that's because of that. So I would say it's difficult from one point of view in that it's difficult to stay true to yourself and really listen to what your heart is telling you to do, because you're always sort of drawn into also thinking commercially, how will the public, the audience, how will they like that, and how my image would work with that, and, try to strip those thoughts and just go totally true. It's difficult, but it's also the easier way when you really think about it. You just need to strip yourself of all those other things.
That's great answer. Great answer. Now, if somebody were to come up to you and say, can you describe your music to me? How do you generally describe it to people?
Yes, very, very good question. Every time is a different answer, I guess. But like what do you say in English? Like maybe you say when push comes to shove,
yep.
Something like that. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if it's right in this context, but let's say that. It's hard rock music. It's classic hard rock with a bit of an ambience to it, and with the lyrics that's like thematically surrounded by scientific stuff.
Right. Okay.
Something like that.
Now, for our listeners, her band is called QFT, which stands for Quantum Field Theory. Linnea has a fascination with quantum physics. How long have you been into that?
Oh, it just came up as a sort of a topic on the internet once, and then I got hooked. I never liked physics, I never liked math, and then there's these fantastic educators online, and they just drew me in with like their information, and after that, it's like a love story. I can't get enough of it. And I really want to learn like the fundamental basics of it, because right now I'm just sort of tapping on the surface of these really difficult things without having any depth in my knowledge. So that's something I really lack and want to, know more about the basics of it, because it's difficult to understand these very big topics without having the basic understanding of like math.
Right, I understand that. Now, the album name is Live in Space, and as I said earlier, it's exceptional. It's musically diversified from start to finish, and your songs are so unique, and your range is crazy too. Now, most of these songs on this, is it an EP or an album? Is it EP?
What does that mean?
Is it an album, or is it just like a CD with 4 or 5 songs on it? Live in Space.
Well, it's a full-length album with 10 songs.
Okay. Now you talk mainly of like time travels from modern science to the eternal philosophical questions. What about these theories drew you to write this album?
The idea for me from the beginning was to really try to make the songs very scientifically accurate. And then when you write the song, because I usually start with, the music, and then I, make the lyrics or write the lyrics afterwards, and trying to fit in these concepts into, a nicely sounding lyric that's one hell of a job, because you need to do your research on what the recent science is saying about the topic. And then you need to make it singable and sound nice, which is very difficult. And in the end, like I said before, it's very difficult for someone without the basic understanding of math and physics and science in general to truly understand the topics. So some of the songs on the album really, became sort of partly it's like a manifestation of how I have come to understand the topics. So there might be some faults in there. I wouldn't be surprised. And also like me trying to, it's a manifestation of me trying to understand some of the topics, because some of them I really, really don't understand. Like take quantum field theory, like the name of the band and also a name of one of the songs.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to understand. Like it's easy to understand, like it's sort of a mixture between you trying to fit together the relativity together with quantum mechanics. That's sort of what the quantum field theory is. But then to go on explaining that in a lyric when I truly don't really understand it, that's very difficult. So it ended up being sort of a manifestation of me trying to understand it, sort of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, are you the only songwriter, or does the band collaborate to do that?
Me and my drummer helped me a lot with the lyrics. It sounds weird with a drummer that's really good with lyrics. I guess that's unusual maybe, but he's really good with that, and he really, really helped me. So he's co-written almost all of the songs lyrically, and our first single, Aliens, he's co-write with the music as well. And my father, Thomas, he helped me with some lyrics in some song, and he co-wrote Big Bang, the second single, together with me. So I have had help, but my fingers are in all of them, sort of.
That's awesome. That is great. And it's nice to have somebody that can, help you, and, if even just the one that helps you, make your dreams come to life. That's really amazing.
Yeah.
It's a great,
it is.
Yes. Now, I do hear a lot of influence in some of this music, like from Black Sabbath, and I hear other nuances of others as well. Can you tell us some of the other people who influenced just this album? You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
Yeah.
So just this album, like Black Sabbath, well, that's an influence in all my life, but maybe that doesn't matter. But Black Sabbath, absolutely. It was like warm in my stereo for a while there in 2016 and 17. But just for this album, that's a good question, I must tell you. I would say, I can't even come up with a single name right now. But yeah, you can probably tell that from song to song, it's also different influences.
Right.
You got a lot of stuff in there, and probably a lot of, what do you say, unconscious? No, that's a weird word.
But I know what you mean.
Subconscious.
Right.
Subconscious.
I mean, there's even bits that are kind of Van Halen-ish. And I did read somewhere that you said that you even drew some influence from the Spice Girls, which shocked me a little bit, because
I can imagine.
Great.
But Spice Girls isn't mainly musically for me. For me, Spice Girls as a group and as an influence from my early childhood is huge. Because they were the ones who sort of made me realize that I too can be a rock star, even though I'm a girl,
Right.
Even though they didn't play rock music, they have the rock and roll attitude,
I have to say I was excited when I found out I was going to be interviewing a girl. I haven't gotten the chance to do that yet, and I just think you're awesome, so.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Now, one of my favorites on this is your cover of Bjork's it's Yoga, right? Yoga?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Can you explain to our listeners what this song is about?
Absolutely. I'm going to try at least, because I've tried to read up on what her version of it is. And Björk's lyrics, I mean, that's the same lyrics, but I think it's like a song that she has tributed to her friend and to Iceland, her native country, Iceland, as a country. I think it's sort of a mix of those two, both to her friend and to Iceland as a country. And there's the guy who wrote the lyrics are actually a poet and also a friend to Björk, I think. But when I listen to the song, and my context is sort of an homage to planet Earth, basically, because the lyrics are it's so beautiful to be in this state of emergency, which is sort of how it is to live on this planet sometimes.
Right.
Because, it's some beautiful lyrics in there, in my opinion. And the song as a whole is absolutely amazing.
Well, you sing it wonderfully.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Now, you've actually worked with legendary sound engineer Leonard Osland, who has worked with some big names like ABBA and Led Zeppelin. That's pretty amazing. So how did all of that come about?
Well, Leonard, he worked together with Therion before as a studio engineer. And we were doing this, I don't know if you know about the rock opera that Therion did, or if the listeners know about that, but we did a sort of 3-hour you say epos? If you say that in Swedish, sorry.
EP?
It's like not an EP, but it's never mind. It's a 3-hour long opera, basically.
Okay.
And I helped him. I sang a little bit in it, but I mainly helped as a sort of a vocal coach on it to the singers. And I sat together in the studio room with Leonard, and we got to talking, and I told him about this project. And this was even before I got in contact with Despots, because I had this idea before I got in contact with Despots Records, or they got in contact with me. And I told him about the project. I wanted to record everything live, and that I wanted it to be about quantum physics and stuff like that. And he was like, I want to record that. And it's quite amazing to hear that from someone as legendary as him.
Right.
So, we went for it, and it ended up sounding and being great. It was a pleasure working with him.
He's amazing. I mean, I did some digging on him too, and I was just like, wow, you couldn't have got a better person, I don't think, to do that. Now, what song on this album is your favorite?
Yeah, that's a difficult question too, but I've sort of thought about that and narrowed it down to the opening track, End of the Universe. That's a little different from all of the other songs on the album, but it was the first one I wrote, and it was even before the whole project was thought of. So it's the first song I wrote, and I don't know, it really just flew out of me. It didn't even have a chance. I couldn't even stop it if I wanted it to. It just happened, and I love the ambience in it. It sort of reeks of that feeling of thinking of the end of the universe, which is a huge thought,
right?
When you're thinking of the end of it all. So I think that you really managed to capture the feeling of how you feel when you think about that stuff. I like that about it. Yeah.
Yes. Now, I love every song on it, but if I had to pick a favorite, I think Aliens is my favorite. So.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Oh, yeah, I loved it. I've been listening to that for days. So.
I'm so happy. Thank you. I love that song, too. It's in a way, it's sort of the opposite from End of the Universe, because it's sort of cheery in a way, like happy. So, and it's, that one is less scientific than all of them, because that's a space adventure. Let's just have some fun in this pit of scientific stuff. Just go for some space travel and some adventure,
Right. Now, did you have any challenges putting this album together?
Mentally, absolutely. It's been sort of draining, not draining my energy, because it's been giving me energy as well. But for me, being sort of the leader of a project, that's something that I'm not very used to or very good at, I would say. So that was the absolute biggest challenge for me, to be sort of in Swedish, you would say the spider in the web, sort of holding every piece together and making sure that everybody knows what they're doing, and keeping in contact with people. Like, I'm not good with that. So that's been my biggest challenge, and I'm still working to get better at that, because I'm not the best at it. So that was the biggest challenge. But musically and creatively, it worked perfectly.
Awesome. Now, can you name a band or musician, past or present, who you flat out love and think more people should be listening to? And what one of their all-time favorite recordings is your favorite?
Okay, I can actually tell you now that there's this band that I've started listening to, and I always need to double check what their name is because it's one of those long names. So hang on.
Okay.
Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Good. They are called. How can I not remember this? Let's see. Here we go. It's not a super new band, but yeah, they're called Church of the Cosmic Skull.
Oh, we'll have to check them out.
Yeah, it's sort of stoner-ish, and their album Is Satan Real has it blew me away because it's sort of right up my alley with the natural sounding and recording and some really good backing vocal stuff in there. I just love it. So everybody check out Church of the Cosmic Skull. I love it.
Yeah, we'll have to, whenever we get the interview set up, we'll have to link that to them so we can have other people check them out. So
absolutely.
Sure.
I think that, yeah, absolutely. But of course, for me, it's all-time favorite. And the one who even got me interested, I think the one who subconsciously again made me want to do a concept thing with my project was Alice Cooper. Absolutely. Alice Cooper, for me, he's God,
Oh, yeah. I actually saw him for the first time here a few years ago with Motley Crue's final tour, and I was never really a big fan until I saw him, and then I thought, wow, what a showman. Just, wow, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's such a showman, and it's something about his voice and the way he tells his story, also in the albums, that's just so inspiring and so amazing to me.
Awesome. Now, if you had the chance to collaborate with anybody, living or dead, who would you choose?
Oh, what a good question. Wow. Okay, getting back to rock vocalists again. But I wouldn't dare to do that because I would be so outshined. But Freddie Mercury would be one of them. And let's see, who more? If you think that was one dead person, let's see if they have any living. Okay, yeah. You know what? It would be really cool to make sort of a rock and roll duet with Aretha Franklin.
Oh, yeah, that would be awesome.
I would love that. I would love to hear her voice in a metal context. I think it would be so awesome.
Wow, I never even thought to think of something like that, but that would be incredible.
Yeah, I agree. It would be absolutely fantastic. And also, yeah, I don't know. Is she live? She is, right?
Yeah, she's still alive, yeah. As far as I know.
Okay, good. Yeah, as far as I know, too. Yeah. Okay, good. Then it's still possible.
Now, where can people buy your album?
I guess you could buy it on iTunes, but that would be a digital copy, I guess. I think you could buy it in the Despots web shop, Despots with a Z in the end. I don't know. I don't remember in my head now what the full URL is. But Despots Records, their web shop, you can buy it from.
Okay, no problem. I can link that too when we get the interview up so people know where to go.
Fantastic.
Now, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
It's different every day. I see myself being as content as I am at the moment, because for me it's life is all about balance, and balancing work, balancing sort of the home life with the touring and everything. And right now, with Therion, we've been touring for almost 4 months this spring, and it also makes you realize that working too much is maybe not perfect all the time, but and after that straight we went for some holidays. We went to Paris, and then we went to an island outside of Sweden for some sun tanning, and it was sort of such a contrast, just going from touring, being in a new city every day, to just sit down and be totally relaxed and not having to do anything. And it's the sort of balance that I like. It to be like some people might like to work 8 hours a day and do that every day, except for weekends, and that's a balance. But for me to do like everything packed into some months and just go for it, and then have a full-on vacation and just do nothing, that's a balance for me, I guess.
Whatever works, you know.
Yeah. So that's sort of where I see myself in 10 years still, because it's a life that I love to live, and a life that I want to continue living. But I mean, I wouldn't mind, touring stadiums instead of smaller clubs.
Right.
So still the same kind of lifestyle, but a little grander, I guess.
Now, is there anything you'd like to say to our fans and our listeners that may not have covered in this video?
I would say, I think you made a very good job covering everything that needs to be said, really. But I guess, you're welcome. I guess that I hope that everyone enjoys the album and sort of really, I think it's an album that you can get back to and hear new things for every time you listen, because there's no flying of the, I don't know if you say that, but there's a new, if you hear a chorus in a song, then it's not going to be the same chorus the first time as the second time, because it's recorded live and from start to finish. So I really hope that people will like that, and that people can take that into their hearts, and that more people dare to do that. If there's a musician listening that wants to make an album or a single or an EP or something, dare to do it live, because it really puts the humanity and soul into the music. So I hope more people want to do that.
That was a great way to round this interview out, Linnea. Thank you so much for joining me today, all the way from Sweden. It has been a pleasure.
Absolutely, for me too.
For our listeners, don't forget to check out QFT's album, Live in Space. It's so unique and badass, you definitely don't want to miss it. So this is Misti-Dawn from the Manamal Streaming Radio. Have a great day.